They didn't kill him. Because they couldn't, so they did something worse. They turned a billionaire's only son into a child. David Caldwell was born into power, not the kind people dream about, the kind people fear. His father was Chief Samuel Caldwell, a man whose name could open doors, or close lives, but power did not protect him from loss. By the age of 3, David had already buried his mother, and by 12, he buried his father too. That was the day everything changed, because the moment the old man was lowered into the ground, another man stepped forward, not as a mourner, but as a successor, Uncle George, a man who smiled too easily and watched too closely. At first, he played the role perfectly, the caring uncle, the protector, the guardian of the empire, but power does not hide for long, it reveals, and slowly, quietly, he began to take things, allowances reduced, decisions controlled, access limited. David noticed, of course he did, he wasn't a child anymore, he was a medical student, brilliant, focused, and just months away from turning 23, the age his father had written into his will, the age everything would return to him, and that was the problem, because Uncle George had already tasted power, and he had no intention of giving it back, but killing David was not an option, because Chief Samuel had been smarter than that. If David died before 23, everything would go to charity, no loopholes, no negotiation, no inheritance, so George made a decision, if he couldn't kill him, he would break him, and one night everything changed. By morning, the brilliant medical student was gone. And in his place was someone who couldn't even remember his own name. It didn't happen in a hospital, it didn't happen in public, and it didn't happen where anyone could see, it happened in silence, behind closed doors, where science could not explain, and evidence could not exist. Uncle George believed in something else. Something older, something darker, what some people call superstition, others know by a different name, juju, African science, and he used it, not to kill, but to erase. David didn't scream, there was no struggle, no visible wound, just a slow disappearance. The sharp mind that once solved complex problems began to fade, memories slipped, words broke, thoughts scattered, until one day, he picked up a toy and smiled like a child. Just like that, the future CEO of a billionaire empire was gone, replaced by someone who could barely understand the world, someone who laughed at cartoons and cried over candy, someone who trusted everyone, even the people destroying him, and every week, they came with papers, millions of naira, contracts, approvals, transfers, sign here, David. And he did, smiling, laughing, oblivious, because in his mind, it was just a game, but there was one person who knew something was wrong. Before everything went wrong, there was Grace. She wasn't born into wealth, she wasn't even born into a family, she was found, one night, on a lonely road, after a party that should have meant nothing. Chief Samuel saw something strange, a basket, at the edge of the road. He should have kept driving, anyone else would have, but something pulled him back, and when he opened it, he found a child, alive, silent, watching, as if she had been waiting. He took her to the police, they refused. Too many cases, too many abandoned children. Take her home, they said, we'll figure it out later. But later never came, no parents showed up, no claims, no answers. Just silence, so he kept her, gave her a name, Grace, and from that day, she was no longer alone, because there was another child in that house, a boy who had everything, except someone to truly understand him, David. They met, and something clicked. No explanation, no hesitation, just connection. They grew together, learned together, laughed together, fought and made peace, and somewhere along the line, without saying it out loud, David fell in love. But Grace, she was different, not just in the way she thought, not just in the way she saw things others missed, different in a way no one could explain, except her, because Grace had a secret, one she had carried since the day she was born, and that secret did not belong to the land. Grace never told anyone, not the maids, not the teachers, not even the people who raised her, because some truths are too dangerous to speak. Her mother was not human, she came from the water, a marine spirit, one who fell in love with a man she was never meant to love, and for a while, she lived among humans, hidden, silent, trying to belong, until he died, and everything changed. The family rejected her, drove her out, took everything, left her with nothing, except the child in her womb, so she returned to where she came from, the sea. But when the child was born, the elders decided something unusual: she cannot stay here. Her blood is mixed. She belongs to both worlds. And so, they sent her away, back to the human world, left in a basket, on a road, waiting to be found. That child was Grace, and though she lived like a human, she was never just one. She saw things others didn't, felt things others couldn't, and sometimes, when no one was watching, things happened around her that had no explanation, but she hid it, carefully, quietly, from everyone, except one person, David, and when David changed, she was the first to know something was terribly wrong.
If you love powerful African stories like this, subscribe to this channel for more shocking stories every week.
At first, it was small, easy to ignore. David forgot things, simple things, names, dates, conversations they had just minutes ago. Grace noticed. "Are you okay?" she asked. He smiled. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the changes became impossible to ignore. The boy who once explained complex medical theories struggled to finish sentences. The man who planned his future couldn't remember what day it was. Grace tried everything: doctors, tests, hospitals, nothing, no diagnosis, no explanation, no solution, just confusion and fear. But Grace wasn't just confused, she was suspicious, because something inside her, something she didn't fully understand, kept whispering the same thing: this is not natural. So she watched, carefully, silently, and what she saw confirmed her worst fear: Uncle George, the way he spoke to David, the way he watched him, the way he smiled when David struggled. That wasn't concern, that wasn't care, that was satisfaction. And in that moment, Grace knew, this wasn't an illness, this was something else, something darker, something intentional, but proving it would cost her more than she was ready to lose. The day David was supposed to become everything his father dreamed of, he couldn't even dress himself. 23 years old, the legal age, the moment everything should return to him, the empire, the power, the control. Instead, he sat on the floor, playing with a toy car, laughing, clapping, completely unaware of what that day meant. Uncle George stood in the corner, watching, satisfied, because the plan had worked perfectly. David was alive, so the will remained intact, but he was gone, so the power remained his. And just like that, a kingdom changed hands, not through death, but through deception. But there was one thing they didn't account for. Grace didn't fight loudly, she didn't scream, she didn't accuse, she waited, watched, listened, because she knew something they didn't. Sometimes, the strongest battles are fought in silence. They tried to remove her once, said she was unnecessary, a distraction, a problem, so they sent her away, and that was their mistake. Because for the first time, David refused to cooperate. No signatures, no documents, no approvals, nothing. He cried, screamed, refused to eat, refused to respond, until one word came out of his mouth: Grace. That was the day they understood. She wasn't just a girl in the house, she was his anchor, his connection, the last piece of him that still held on. So they brought her back, and never tried again. But Grace was no longer just protecting him. She was preparing for something bigger. It started as a whisper, soft, distant, almost unreal. Grace heard it at night, when everything was quiet, when the world was asleep. Come. At first, she ignored it, told herself it was nothing: stress, imagination, fear. But it didn't stop. It grew louder, clearer, closer. Come. She couldn't explain it, but she felt it, deep inside her, like something was calling her home. And one day, she stopped resisting. The day was ordinary, too ordinary, which is why no one saw it coming. Grace took the car. David sat beside her, holding his toy, smiling, unaware. They drove in silence, until they reached the sea, Bar Beach. The waves were rough that day, violent, unforgiving. People were leaving, running, avoiding the water. But Grace walked toward it, slowly, calmly, as if she belonged there. Come. The voice was no longer distant, it was right there, calling her, claiming her. and without hesitation, she stepped into the water, and she didn't stop. People shouted, screamed, ran toward her, "Come back! Are you mad?" But she didn't turn, didn't slow down, didn't hesitate. Step by step, she went deeper until the water reached her chest, her neck, her face, and then she was gone, swallowed by the sea. Just like that, David watched, confused, unbothered to him. She had just gone for a swim. He sat down, took out his toy, and started playing, as if nothing had happened, but beneath the ocean. Grace did not drown. She woke up.